and the first sentinel chicken has tested positive. As in New York, the first victims are the crows. But this time, the warning is not ignored.
Good morning, West Nile Virus Hotline. Maya speaking. How may I help you?
Hi, I think I have a dead crow here. Looks pretty fresh.
I'd like to report a dead bird. I think it's a crow, big and black.
20 inches?
Yeah, it's about that.
Okay, it sounds like a crow. And where are you calling from?
The crows are really the only visible sign that there's something going on.
The sick one was picked up right in front, right here on this grass area.
So far this year, we're up to 450, and we're only halfway through the summer.
And then the inevitable happened.
A 57-year-old Orange County man has died of the West Nile virus and is the first fatality from the disease reported in California. Meantime, state health officials say the mosquito-borne disease...
What we are seeing now is just the tip of the iceberg. I cannot predict how many human cases we may end up with, but I believe there'll be a significant number occurring here in California.
The residents of Los Angeles can only hope that their vector control team can stop West Nile from spreading before the death toll mounts. But across the world, there are few vector control teams, and untold millions are under constant attack from the most deadly mosquito-borne killer of all, malaria. No place on Earth suffers more from malaria than sub-Saharan Africa. While people of all ages get the disease, it is most devastating to children.
Severe malaria, severe anemia.
Over 1 million children die of malaria every year. Dr. Juliana Otieno is on the front lines of malaria's devastation. Head of pediatrics at the Nyanza District Hospital in Kisumu, Kenya, Otieno has walked these wards for 2 decades. The hospital has 80 beds, with at least 2 children to a bed. 90% have malaria. Dr. Otieno knows these symptoms all too well. She loses 3 to 5 children every day.
So it's quite distressing. In fact, there are days you don't want to come to the ward because a child will die in your hands.
Malaria is not caused by a virus like West Nile or yellow fever. It's caused by a microscopic animal, a parasite. The parasite enters the bloodstream with the bite of a mosquito and soon transforms itself so it can invade red blood cells.
This parasite that's living in the red blood cells is multiplying and bursting the red blood cells. And the child becomes very, very anemic. And that anemia can then lead to death. And the death can be very rapid. It can be within hours.
Dr. Mary Hamill has been fighting the uphill battle against malaria in Africa for years.
Malaria is everywhere here. If you went out in the village and took blood samples, you'd find that 80 to 90% of children have malaria right now.
For Judith Otiambo, malaria is a constant worry. She's looking after 5 children. 2 of them, her 18-month-old son Ben and her grandchild Kevin, are sick.
Ben has a bad cough, diarrhea, fever, vomiting, and stomach pains. They're very sick. I'm frightened they will both die.
Judith has already lost 2 children to malaria. She remembers the day she took them to the local clinic, a 2-hour walk away.
The first one died on the way to the hospital. The second one died within 2 hours of getting there.
It
It was a terrible loss. felt like losing a part of myself.
While malaria can be deadly for children, adults gain partial immunity through multiple infections. But still, they will have long bouts of sickness and fatigue.
If a father has malaria, he can't go out and work to bring home funds and food for the family. This is a disease of poverty, and it keeps people impoverished.
Judith heads for a local pharmacy to get anti-malarial drugs. There are many medicines for sale, but here in Kenya, few of these remedies are worth buying.
There have been reports that as much as 30% of the drugs found in shops in Kenya are counterfeit. This is really a tragedy because mothers think they're doing the right thing, but the drug that they're getting may not help their child at all.
Judith buys a well-known brand of the malaria drug commonly called SP for about 30 cents. But even if it's not counterfeit, it may not work. SP is the latest in a series of anti-malarial drugs that have been rendered nearly useless by the malaria parasite, which keeps evolving resistance to every one of these medicines.
It used to be that you could treat a case of malaria for pennies. But the drugs that are available, that are affordable, just don't work anymore.
With no good treatment available, the survival of Ben and Kevin has become a frightening game of chance. A game that 1 million African children lose every year. But why are the children of Africa still dying of malaria, when history has shown that this disease can be controlled? Less than a century ago, malaria was rampant in America. Thousands suffered its fevers and chills every year. But by the 1940s, malaria had been virtually eliminated from the United States by draining swamps, screening windows, and spraying insecticides. This remarkable achievement was inspired in large part by the efforts of an American doctor named Fred Soper. Soper became a legend in Brazil, where he'd led a campaign against yellow fever in the 1930s. It was so successful, the Brazilian government asked him to take on the more difficult problem of malaria.
Soper strode across the field of international health for decades. He was someone who achieved a great deal by being tremendously organized, tremendously disciplined, and applying that discipline to all those who worked with him.
Soper was not focused on treating malaria victims. His target was the particular mosquito that spread the disease most rapidly.
The Anopheles gambi.
Soper declares war on the Anopheles with only one goal: total eradication.
There's no such thing as partial success in species eradication. One either achieves glorious success or dismal failure.
Soper mounts a military-style campaign, dividing the country into sectors and attacking them one after the other, fumigating homes, draining swamps, and poisoning every mosquito breeding site they can find.
So the coverage was 100%. Some people have referred to Soper as the General Patton of malaria control.
Soper's campaign is relentless and uncompromising, and it works. By 1940, he had eliminated the Anopheles gambi from Brazil and reduced malaria deaths considerably. He was so successful, many believed malaria could be controlled in other countries as well. With Fred